Hey guys, it's me, Cap, former head coach of TSM's Overwatch 2 team and Wisp and Contenders. Today I want to talk about Mauga. Now, a lot of people have mixed thoughts on Mauga. Me personally, obviously it's not the most complex and entertaining tank or meta to watch, but unfortunately when he's strong, he's incredibly strong just because of the way the character is designed. Either his stats are good or they're not, right? So the meta we're about to enter in Stockholm, and the comp you're probably going to be forced to play if you're on a team, is something like what you're seeing on your screen, right? This Malga Juno Brig with like Reaper, Echo, or Genji, or maybe, there might be a couple variants of this that emerge. I'm not really sure. But one thing's for sure, and it's you're going to have to play Malga. And the other thing for sure is that you probably don't know what you're doing, right? Most Malga players that I watch or do sessions for, especially if you didn't play the first Malga meta, that was like the Malga Esports World Cup meta with like Cass Genji or Genji Venture, and then like the Kiri and the Lucio. People don't really understand this character. And so I want to just do this guide and go over, there's 4 things I have. And really, they're not that complicated. Once you see them, it'll probably make a lot of intuitive sense. But this character, a lot of people will just be like, oh, I'm not getting enough healing. Oh, they're just doing more damage. Oh, this comp is brain dead. Oh, that's unlucky, whatever. It's really not unlucky. It's entirely within your control, and I'm about to show you why. So the first thing is your armor. And now this, if you want to just watch this first minute of the video and click off, then you'll be a top 1% Maga player, right? The core of this comp and this interaction, and almost any Maga comp that's made, is that when you have your armor and you're being shot and healed, right? Assuming that you're getting the pocket from your team, like most of the time you are, right? Like you have Inspire, and whatever this is going to be, Juno or Kiri, hard pocket, and both DPS and the Maga are shooting you, right? This is going to happen a lot in the neutral. If you have your armor, there's more healing than there is damage incoming, right? So between your healing on yourself, between these two people's healing, compared to the damage that you're taking, you will maintain almost full health if you have your armor, right? And that's incredibly important because there's not a lot of skill to this trade, right? Echoes, Malgas, Reapers, they're not going to miss shots on you, right? So understanding that, like, the skill in the neutral comes from controlling the armor interaction, and maintaining your own armor, and incredible discipline on this, right? This clip we're about to watch is Monkey Happy is going to engage on this retake on point before getting healed up for his armor. And it's a really tragic mistake that's going to get him killed instantly, right? And we'll watch one more clip maybe. But as a Mauga, pay attention, lock your eyes to the bottom of your screen, right? To your armor. I need to see this because if I don't have my armor and I go in, I'm dead, right? When you're in this half of your health bar, there's more incoming damage than there is healing, right? Even with your own healing, even with your E a lot of the time, right? And so like this is the super basics to this comp, right? Maintaining your armor, paying attention to the enemy Mauga armor. If he has full armor and you're 5-man shooting him, calling him as a target call, trying to kill him, he's not going to die. But if you break his armor, we used to on Wisp TSM, we would call this cracked, like the Apex call, right? Like his armor's off, like when you crack someone's shields or whatever. But whatever call you want to make, you better be making this call. If you ever are 5-men shooting the Mauga in the neutral fight and his armor is broken, he's cracked, you need to push this, right? Because that's your opportunity to kill him. Or, force a Z out or whatever, right? But this is thing number 1. Let's watch some fights. This first one's a retake, right? So you can see they're about to retake, but this very small amount of discipline, right? And not waiting for his armor to come back, is going to punish him in this fight here, right? So there's nothing too special about what's actually going to happen, right? He just pins on a point to engage. But you see, there's just not enough healing, right? Yeah, he uses Z a little bit early and miss some shots, right? But like that's the core of this comp. If you don't have your armor, you're dead, right? Let's watch one more fight on this, and we're not going to watch too much of armor interactions because it's pretty boring, right? But this is Winthrop versus ISU, where I think most of the clips are from as well. And Infected did a little pin up here, right? And so what we're going to see here, Infected doesn't have his armor. About right here, right? And he chooses to reload here while he's still taking damage without his armor, right? And this is a really big problem because if you're taking damage without your armor, right? He cancels his reload with a melee and he tries to salvage it, right? But not having his armor here means that even though he shoots onto, there's just not enough healing in the comp, right? He's getting healing. He's from himself, right? He's getting healing from both of his supports. There's just not enough, right? So stat checking factor number 1 is the armor, right? And if you want to click off now, that's the vast majority of it, right? There's 3 other things I'll still go over if you want to still watch. The second thing that's really important is the reloading micro. Now, the first way to die is to lose your armor and not pay attention, right? And continue the fight. The second way to die is to not have disciplined reloading micro, right? Obviously, as much healing as you have, like, is directly related to the amount of bullets that you could shoot, right, for your healing. So this is the other way people die in mid fights. So this is Fisher versus UCI esports that happened recently in the some collegiate tournament. I don't even remember, homecoming or something, right? But what we're gonna watch in this fight is the Reaper goes in. They ring, they see this advantage, right? They want to push off of whatever their Reaper just got, right? So he's going to push left. He sees the Brig is close, right? But the problem is he chooses to keep shooting for this mid-fight damage. And around right now, he's at 150, right? Which means if this fight continues past here, it's just going to be a stat check. Even if I did everything right with the armor, he has armor, both Magas are doing everything right. I'm just not going to have the ammo I need to sustain in this mid-fight, and I'm just going to die, right? And what ends up happening is he's about 23 ammo right here, so he realizes if I reload right now, I'm just gonna die, right? So he pins out, tries to salvage it, right? But around here, the fight's over anyways, right? Like having to do this, he loses all the space, they just chase. He's dead, right? So what should you do? Well, there's two ways to do this, right? One, anytime you're poking in the neutral, right? I told you to lock your eyes to your armor, right? Which is important, but you really need to lock your eyes to the bottom of the screen in general, because what's going on in front of you, right? There's just a fucking blob of a Mauga that you need to shoot, whatever. That's not hard. You should be able to do that without looking at it too hard. You need to be flicking your eyes down to your armor and down to your ammo, right? Because when I'm poking in this early fight, and if you watch him poke, obviously I want to poke, right? Around here. But the thing is, anytime I can reload, I should, right? After doing that poking, I can reload behind this corner, or if I want to walk up here and push these people out first, then I can reload on this corner, and that's cool, right? So this was chance number 1 to reload. If I want to ring and take the space now, this is chance number 2 to reload. If you need to sacrifice doing a little bit of damage in this mid fight, it is 100% worth it, right? Because I need to have my bullets. I can't afford to not have my bullets in this mid fight, right? So should have had, first corner, whatever, would have been best. This corner would have been okay. Doing it never is not okay, right? And he's just going to die. So those are the first two things. And that's the vast majority of it. The only other things that I think are really worth talking about on this character are the pin usage. And you could maybe say like engaging in general, but I'll trim it down to just pin usage. And the way that you use cage. So pin usage, the third thing, I want to put a little bit of an asterisk on this because this is something that is really different in the Mauga mirror versus Mauga against other comps, right? And right now, the Mauga meta might be so strong that you have to just play Mauga and it's going to be mirror every fucking day, whatever, right? But whether you're playing ranked or whether you're playing a team that doesn't play meta, or whether, the meta changes a little bit and there becomes like a diverse meta, like the last Mauga meta where some teams played SIG, right? If you watch back EWC, pin usage, there's really two types of pins, right? The first pin is the super easy pin and the pin that every Mauga wants to do, right? Where I pin into 5 people, I get a massive slam with 40,000 damage and everyone dies, right? And that's what, for this video, I'll call that like a hard pin or a hard engage pin, right? The thing is, that's not very good most of the time, especially in early fights, right? Because the problem is if you do that, you're going to lose your armor on the way in. And as we talked about, losing your armor on the way in is death, right? The enemy Mauga can just pop an E, live your pin, and then they'll shred your armor off and they'll kill you, right? So how do I want to do it? Well, if you're in your neutral and you're tired of poking, or you don't want to poke because you want to like set up my Reaper to walk a little bit, or I think that we have some kind of small advantage, right? Like maybe we cracked their Mauga's armor off, or we forced to fade, or we forced to fly, or whatever, right? Like this is the thing you could do off like small advantages or to work your neutrals. It's called a soft pin. So what Cuff is going to do here is he takes the left angle and he sees them, and instead of hard pinning, right, like pinning in here on 5 people trying to knock down the Brig or the fucking Reaper or whatever, right? He's just gonna pin through here and back to point, right? And so this pin, the key is that yes, his armor got broken, but because he uses to get out, he's basically unpunishable, right? Admiral can shield here, he's gonna get healed before they're able to punish his armor. So this kind of unpunishable early fight pin is really important if you want to pin without dying in these early fights, and even in ult fights, right? Like even though you can hard pin in ult fights a lot of the time and maybe get away with it, this type of pin is really useful. And like I said earlier, this type of pin is really, really useful when you're in the non-mirror. I'm not going to go over examples here because it's a little bit more complicated than I want to just throw into this video. But if you go back and watch Falcons play this comp in the Esports World Cup, I think especially Falcons versus ENCE. ENCE played the SIG comp a lot. You'll see the way that Falcons use their pin to do this exact same thing. And honestly, the vast majority of their pins ended up being this kind of pin, right? Because you were so punishable into that type of comp. But yeah, this is incredibly important, learning how to do that in the neutral. Because when you soft pin, right, your DPS are able to walk up, you're able to get your damage through, right? You're able to do something in the neutral, you know, without feeling like you have to just poke across the map the whole time. But you're not punishable, right? So this is super important. The last thing is cage usage. In cage, again, it's not that complicated, right? But the hard part is resisting the demon in your head that tells you, I want to pin in. I want to do number 3 wrong. I want to hard pin instead of soft pin in this neutral. And I want to jump in as far as I can and get my armor cracked. And I want to get a 5-man cage where 5 people can shoot me, right? So the problems here is right when I cage, I don't necessarily want to catch all 5 people, especially all 3 of these people, right? Because the more people I cage, obviously they're going to shoot me when I cage. And if I'm the easy, obvious target and everyone's inside the cage, it's not actually that awesome, right? Like, yes, there's maybe a shield, but it's basically just like a small square where we're all shooting them and they're all shooting us, right? So number 1 is I want to try and split the front line off a little bit if I can, even for just a second, right? To like force a fade or force a fly or force an early E or something, right? And that kind of advantage is nice. 2, I don't want to get my armor cracked off to try and hard pin and set up a cage, right? It's not hard to set up a cage. You can just walk in with ring, or you can just cage whoever's in front of you, right? It's not that difficult. I can just solo cage a Mauga if I want to. So let's watch this. Here, Admiral's up, right? So all we need to do, seeing that Admiral's up, is we just need to pop a ring, right? Which we do. I just need to walk up. I don't even need to pin here, right? Walk up, and I can just really easily hit, you know, these frontliners here. And if the backliners don't walk into the cage, the frontliners will just die, right? If the backliners do walk into the cage, we can kill them, right? But instead, he hard pins. 5 people are looking at him. He gets his armor chunked off him, right? And now he's dead, even though he pops C, right? So don't cage like this. I'm only going to watch one good cage again because I hope this is pretty simple. But here, Cuff has cage. This is actually the fight right before this, right? And all you need to do, there's a couple things, right? If you're the defending team, you can like play slow and they have to kind of walk into you, either walk onto point or try and clear some space, right? And then it's easy, right? I can just ring, I can walk up without even pinning. And if the squishies are baiting really hard to try and not get caught in the cage, either I can see if one frontliner, like if one of the DPS is up, I can just cage the DPS and kill them. If it's a solo Mauga, I don't necessarily need to, because just shooting him is like just as effective. So shoot him until his backliner walks up. When a backliner walks up, cage them, right? It's not that hard. So let's watch this fight. Now he sees that Reaper and Brig are up here, right? So all I have to do, I don't even need to pin, right? Just pop it down. Super easy. Even though they Reaper roll, right? We just have rally. It's easy, right? So I do want to add on that Cage is not necessarily a solo value ultimate all the time, and especially in this meta, it's used to like set up other ultimates. So you need to think a little bit about what ult am I trying to set up and like what kind of cage best does that, right? Because if it is a Reaper ult, maybe I do actually want to cage all 5 people, right? If it's a copy or if it's like you know, a Juno ult, maybe I only want to cage the frontliners so that my copy doesn't get bursted immediately. Or you know, if it's a rally, maybe I want to make sure there's a corner where like I can bunch them all up and whatever, this kind of thing. Like I'm not going to tell you all the answers to all that because, you know, figure it out on your own. But just to recap, right? Thing number 1, pay attention to your fucking armor. Pay attention to the enemy Mauga's armor. That's a huge part of the neutral. It's actually the vast majority of the neutral. If you're not making callouts when the enemy Mauga's armor is broken, you are fucking losing out on the biggest opportunity ever. If you are engaging with your armor off and you're saying, how did I die there? Why are you guys not healing me? Then your whole team is going to shoot you and eat you alive, right? It's going to feel like literally they're doing more damage to you. And it's because they are mathematically doing way more damage to you if you don't have armor and they do, right? Thing number 2, control your reload micro, right? Don't greed your damage going into the fight. If you want to poke, that's fine. I'll never tell you not to poke, right? Obviously, you're going to just literally do air if you don't poke. But as you're poking, make sure you reload before you enter that mid fight, or you're going to die in the mid fight when you run out of ammo and the enemy Mauga has ammo still, right? Third thing, pin usage, right? don't go for those massive 40,000 damage mega slams, right? Sometimes, if the time is super right and you can get away with it, maybe, right? If I know people aren't looking at me from where I'm coming from, I have a nice angle or whatever, or maybe I just force both DPS CDs, I know they can't shoot me, right? Maybe whatever, right? But the majority of your pins in the early fight should be these kind of softer pins that hopefully end you in less punishable locations. Now, I do want to add on to this. I didn't say in the moment, maybe, but your second pin, like when you pin for the early fight, right? Your second pin comes back. Almost always your second pin can be a really hard pin, right? Because by that time you've already done the micro correctly. You're kind of in the cleanup phase, right? The pin for that damage is really, really good. I'm mostly just talking about specifically the early fight. And then the fourth thing, your cage. Don't greed those massive fucking cages. Don't get your armor cracked to get a cage. Your pathing for cage fights is just as important as your pathing on neutral fights. Don't treat it differently, right? Or it's not going to work. So yeah, I hope you learned something. I honestly hope this character gets nerfed into the fucking ground soon. I really hate this meta, but while we're here, we might as well have fun. So I'll see you guys later.